The critics are calling The Player a masterpiece.
It's gonna be funny? Yeah, it'll be funny.
Smart.
We're gonna have a little sex in this mystery.
Yeah, sure, we'll get it.
Sophisticated.
Are you seeing someone else?
No.
You took her to a party, Griffin, with several hundred of my best friends.
Brilliant.
It's Out of Africa meets Pretty Woman.
A delectable high comedy.
This is Pasadena. We do not arrest the wrong person. That's L.A.
4 stars.
Yes.
Robert Altman's The Player. Rated R.
In a world where podcasts reign supreme, 2 friends dare to ask, do you even movie? Hosted by filmmaker Henrique Couto and movie aficionado David D. Neuer. Spoiler alert.
Hey, my friends, and welcome back to Do You Even Movie? I'm your host, Henrique Couto, here with Double D, David Denoyer.
Greetings.
Who is now Art Movie David this week.
Is that a fact?
Well, you picked the film.
This is a Dave pick,
and
yes.
it's a bit of an art film.
It's a bit of an art film, yeah.
I would not call it an entire art film.
No.
But I would call it has art film tendencies.
Oh, yeah, it absolutely
Which
does.
I think most of Robert Altman's output has that. Even MASH, which is a raunchy comedy, has kind of artsy film tendencies to it. Like the way it's shot, his voyeuristic thing.
Yeah.
I struggle with if I love it or it annoys me.
It was interesting to watch you throughout this movie because this, like as you pointed out, the pacing in this is not exactly like lightning fast.
But it's purposeful.
Yes.
So it's not like it's slow because they don't know what they're doing.
Yes.
That's not the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, you're the problem.
I'm always the problem.
But so this week we are talking about 1992's The Player.
That's when I was born.
Which, have you ever heard my theory that like 92
is one of the best
years
film
for movies ever?
Oh, yeah.
You got Terminator 2, you got Eddie Presley, 2 of my all-time favorites, same year.
Yeah.
And they couldn't be more different in every way.
Absolutely.
I used to sit up at night on Tubi when I was really, really bored during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I put in 1992, and about half of your results will be from the year.
Yeah.
At least back when I searched it back then. I don't know if it works as well now.
Yeah.
But so I would just like get my fill of like 1992 cable movies, 1992 this, 1992 that. There was a period of time where I was watching only movies from 92 every night before I went to sleep.
I remember that period.
And so that was like very fun. But yeah, so 92, I have a soft spot for 1992.
Yeah.
At least the home video era of 92.
Absolutely.
Because I was watching Terminator 2 again and again and again and again. And I just realized I was trying to, for the lighting setup of the office, or the studio rather, I was trying to come up with something that like could vaguely fit this.
Yeah.
And now I'm looking at it, it's just Halloween.
Yeah.
God damn it, this is the perfect light setup for when Halloween comes. But why is it here? Everybody, if you're listening to this out loud, sorry. Alexa, backlights daylight.
Let's just see.
I'm just going to make it look more, because we're not talking about Monster Man.
No.
We're not talking about I Know What You Did Last Summer.
We're essentially talking about all movies, the way the film goes, in a sense.
Well, and I have to say, this is part of our, somehow.
Yes, say it.
I was going to say our Martin Mull Appreciation Month.
I know.
I was not going to say you're
Mulgus.
Disgusting.
You're not going to say Mulgus. It's fine.
Gross.
Yeah, I know.
It sounds like something you would find, like that you would scrape off of your foot.
Are you going to bring up something every time that we say Mulgus now?
Ew.
Too late.
It just sounds like, if your foot was so infected, you have to cut it off with a knife.
Mulgus.
Not the foot, the infection. You have to sit there with a potato peeler just getting that mulgus off your foot.
But you could also make it a fun time, and we could do the Old West solution. What was it of basically inventing a sickness by having an animal and then the name of a body part?
An animal and a body part is an Old West sickness.
Yeah.
I got rabbit foot, huh? Oh, he got tortoise toe.
Tortoise toe.
He got shrew nose. They all sound like actual ailments from back then.
Yeah.
No, but so as this is your pick.
Yes.
for Martin Mull Appreciation Month because we're appreciating the late, great Martin Mull.
Yes, we are.
He doesn't even speak in this film.
He does not speak in this movie. This, full disclosure at the top of the episode, this was a pick because I solely wanted to talk about this movie because I just saw this movie for the first time this year. And I remembered that Martin Mull was in it, plus it appeared on his filmography on Letterboxd.
So you thought, why not dance on Mull's grave and use his death as an excuse?
Is he not in the movie?
Not really. I mean, he doesn't say a word.
Who is it in this movie?
There are a lot of celebrities in this movie that are not saying anything.
Oh, we'll get into it.
But I was shocked when Mull popped up because I actually made a joke to you. I was like, watch him just be an extra. And you're like, no, he is an extra.
An extra, yeah.
And I was like,
We said this last week. Mull's filmography is a bit of slim pickings, and I unfortunately have not seen FM, which it has gotten good reviews on Letterboxd and IMDb. So I'm curious about it. My Bodyguard's a possibility that we talked about. Mrs. Doubtfire's a possibility. Like his filmography is so limited that for film. We kind of have to go with what we know.
I mean, at this point, we could have just went with Dance with Death. At least he said something in Dance with Death. I actually really like Dance with Death.
I mean, Dance with Death is still an option. We'll see.
Well, I mean, I try to pick movies that are vaguely accessible.
Yeah, and hey, this is accessible on 2 services, mind you, though. 2
pay services, of course. If you want to watch yourself some The Player, you can catch it on Max or the Criterion channel.
Correct.
So so if you're like, well, I don't want Max, I want everybody to know I'm better than you.
I've got the Criterion channel.
Criterion.
Which, shout out to our buddy Matt Van Diest, who lets me use his.
That is a crime.
Is it?
That's against the terms of use.
Well,
you shouldn't have said his full name.
We're going to have to bleep that out.
That was a good luck with that. You learn how to edit the podcast. You can bleep it out. I was not going to sell out a buddy for sharing a
sell out a
password.
buddy. I was more so giving him props, but yes, I did sell him out.
You just sold him out hardcore.
That's okay.
It's okay.
He doesn't listen to the show anyway.
Well, but Criterion does.
Criterion totally does.
They do.
Yes, my apologies.
So, but before we get to all that, really quick.
Yes.
We just got back from the theater, and we were seeing M. Night Shyamalan's newest film, Trap.
Which we will say we recorded this on the night that the movie did come out.
Yeah, we saw it opening night.
Yeah.
Well, preview night.
Preview night.
And this is the thriller with Josh Hartnett about a pop concert that is being secretly turned into a police sting.
Yeah.
And our main character, Josh Hartnett, is a serial killer, and he's trying to escape because they figured out he would be there, but they didn't know who he is.
Yeah.
They had 5 descriptions they were looking at. Basically, they end up checking every man. Every adult man that's there. So we went and saw it, opening night, preview night, and I thought, unlike David, I'm just being straight up because it's important to be like, unlike you, I really loved it.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was a solid thriller. It returned to form for M. Night Shyamalan. I didn't dislike Knock at the Cabin.
It was. This is terrible for me to say. It wasn't. It wasn't forgettable, but it's not high on my list at all. Really,
I liked it. It was tense as hell.
Oh yeah,
it was extremely tense, and I liked Old as well.
Old is one that I really like. It's gotten way better on a couple watches with me too. It is a genuinely terrifying movie for me, to be honest.
Afraid of getting old?
It's just the way that movie goes with its story, its characters, and everything in between of a day and what it can do to somebody's life. Terrifying. Yes, I'm afraid of getting old there. Happy?
31, huh?
32.
I win! The only thing better is when you're older. So Trap is out. I loved it. I think it's one of my favorite films I've seen in the theater this year, especially in the horror realm. I'm the outlier. A lot of people have been shocked to hear this because they hear me seeing Longlegs and Maxine and Sting and Late Night with the Devil, all these things in theaters.
Yeah.
And then they're like, what's your favorite horror movie of the year? And I'm like, that would be A Quiet Place Day One.
Yeah.
And they're all like, what? And then, and it's funny because at first I was like, I guess it's weird to have that be a favorite. Hey, it outsold all of those other horror movies combined.
Yeah.
And it was just damn good. And then I found out a month later that it was directed by the writer and director of Pig.
Yeah.
And that's a phenomenal film.
Possible stay tuned on the show.
That could be.
Yeah.
That could be.
Pig has a lot
is
to
an
discuss.
excellent film.
Yeah.
So, but no, so I love Trap.
I did too. Yes.
No, you. I know you didn't. You
I
don't
gave
have
it
to say what
5
you
out
fit
of
in.
5 stars on Letterboxd while I was in the theater.
Yeah, that's just because you want everybody to pay attention to you.
No, it's more so because this Trap is my favorite horror film, if not possibly favorite film of 2024 so far. It's the first film that I've given 5 stars to on Letterboxd for the year.
Do you want me to be quiet so you can tell Ty West to fuck himself?
No, it's not. Ty West does not have to go fuck himself. We've already had the discussion of Maxine on the show.
We did like it.
Yeah, Maxine was fine.
And Pearl's a goddamn masterpiece.
But Trap got me so good because I can't say anything without giving away too much, but if you go by the 2 trailers that have been released so far, you have an idea what the movie's going to be. You have no fucking idea what the third act's going to be.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true.
Yeah. And it all works. Josh Hartnett is so terrifying in this movie. Like, I was getting uncomfortable with the close-up shots of him.
Well, he's off-putting.
He's so off-putting.
Which is really fascinating. The way they filmed him and the way they filmed his dialogue scenes, like, makes you uneasy.
Yeah. And I mean, I was telling you in the theater that, like, I've been playing a lot of Hitman 2 recently because it's a great stress reliever for one, but also trying to get all the goals met on that game is very tough, but a lot of fun. This movie feels like one giant Hitman level for a bit.
It's the most white boy thing I've ever heard.
Hitman
is a great stress reliever, bro.
Dude, I don't give a shit. It is.
I'm going to listen to Limp Bizkit until my dickhead stepdad comes home.
If I fuck up a mission, I can just kill everybody, which is always nice.
Yeah.
And also, you can run through those mines, bruh.
You're a dick. And people are like, why don't you like playing video games? It's because my friend is Dave. Well, real quick before we finish up our points about Trap.
Yes.
Do you want to plug your friggin' Letterboxd? Because you have one and you just said you did.
I mean, you can find my Letterboxd at David's Watching Movies Again, which is David S. WMA. Yeah, WMA. I keep forgetting it because they wouldn't let me put the full title in there like it is on my Instagram.
So if anybody wants to be really unhappy,
David S.
Follow
WMA.
David S. Pumpkins at
David S.
Pumpkins. So anyway, but Trap, cannot recommend enough to go see it in the theater. I hope it kills this opening weekend, but
me too.
As we said, we're recording this before it has been reported. So I have no idea what's going to happen.
And we also, for the record, did see a new trailer for Speak No Evil, which I told you I found out recently is a remake of a 2022 foreign film. But the new trailer really stepped things up for me with a lot more of McAvoy talking and not just being menacing.
No, that's what they've gotten really good at doing at these smaller studios that are putting out horror movies like Neon and stuff like that. Is getting really good at giving you the least amount the first trailer, like really the least amount. To the point where when the next trailer drops, you kind of like, even if you're sitting there like eating your popcorn and talking to your buddy, you look up and go, oh, I haven't seen these scenes.
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
And that's the way I felt when that trailer dropped tonight. I was like, oh man, I'm like learning what the movie's really about and not just getting a sense of the tone.
Yeah.
So yeah, that looks really good.
But yeah, Trap, highly recommend.
You think it could dethrone Trap in your mind?
I doubt it. I don't know. I don't know, man. Trap met every expectation possible for me and then some, because I was already going into the idea of it essentially being what we've discussed off mic. I don't want to give any spoilers, but what we thought it was going to be, what it turned out to be, blew me away. And that's all I can really say about it.
Blew you. Got it.
Blew me hard.
So, with all that out of the way,
yes,
shall we dive into 1992's The Player?
We shall. So we were talking about The Player from 1992, 2 hours and 4 minutes, rated R for language and for some sensuality.
And you'll notice every minute.
Yes, you will. There are 2 scenes that are pretty heavy on it. Our director on the film is Robert Altman. 90 credits on this man's resume, with his directing starting in 1948 with Bodyguard. He got a story credit for. His directing doesn't start until 57, though, with The Delinquents, where he was writer, producer, and director on. He did a director on Alfred Hitchcock Presents at 57, M Squad, Maverick, Bonanza, Combat, The Cold Day in the Park, MASH in 1970, which you already talked about.
The feature film.
The feature
not
film.
The TV
not
series.
the TV show, yeah. Which, if you have not seen the feature film of MASH, it is absolutely worth a watch.
Oh, yeah. No, it's a great film, but it's so different from everything else that was out. I can't believe it was a huge hit because it was so odd. And I can't believe that anybody would watch MASH and go, you know what this needs to be? A sitcom.
Left track.
Like, let's make it a sitcom. Every week people are going to watch these guys do, surgeon death stuff.
MASH also containing the first instance of fuck ever being uttered in a film.
Is that real?
100% accurate. That is the first F-bomb ever on film.
Ever on film?
Ever on film. On a major motion picture.
Oh, okay. So now the qualifiers come out.
What?
On a studio
movie. My apologies. I'm not even getting into this. Brewster McCloud in 1970, McCabe and Mrs. Miller in 71, which he is writer and director on, Images in 72, writer and director, The Long Goodbye in 73, Thieves Like Us in 74, California Split, Nashville in 75, Buffalo's Bill and the Indians, or Sitting Bull's History Lesson in 76, which he's writer and director on, Three Women, A Wedding, Quintet, The Perfect Couple, Popeye in 1980. Then he does Beyond Therapy, which he's writer and director on, Basements, The Player in 92, Shortcuts in 93, Ready to Wear in 94, Kansas City in 96, The Gingerbread Man in 98, not the Ginger Dead Man.
Thank God.
Dr. T and the Woman in 2000, Gosford Park 2001, The Company in 2003, and Prairie Home Companion in 2006. He unfortunately passed in 2006 as well at the age of 81 due to leukemia.
I can't believe how few of his movies I've watched in the 90s.
I was really surprised. Yeah.
I thought this might have been the only film he did in the 90s because I had no idea.
Yeah, he was going for a while there, which I'll get into a little bit more about The Player and Shortcuts when we get into the trivia at the end of the episode. Moving on down to our writer, it's Michael Tolkien, who did the novel for The Player. He gets his start, ironically, in Delta House, 79.
Oh, we talked about that last week.
Yep, he was a writer on that. Taxi in 80, Gossip in 82, Gleaming the Cube in 89.
I don't know that one.
The Christian Slater skateboard crime movie.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The Rapture in 91, which he's writer and director on. The Player in 92, which he did novel and screenplay for. Deep Cover in 1992, which he wrote the screenplay for.
Deep Cover.
Lawrence Fishburne as the undercover cop with Goldblum.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one.
Very good movie. The New Age, which he's writer-director on in 94. The Burning Season in 94. The Player in 92. Deep Impact, The Player TV movie in 97. There's a TV movie, by the way.
What?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
5 years later, there's a TV movie called The Player. Which I'm kind of wanting to track down, but also I don't know if I want to.
I'll dig up some info about it while you're
Deep Impact in 1998, Changing Lanes in 2002, Masters of Science Fiction 2007, 9 in 2009, which he's a screenplay writer for, Ray Donovan episodes in 2014.
Oh, okay.
Escape at Danorama in 2018, and he most recently created The Offer, the TV series about The Godfather, the making of The Godfather in 2022.
Really? That was him? That was a really good series.
Yeah. Moving on down to our cinematographer, it is Jean Lapine. He gets his start as assistant camera on Comeback to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean in 82, Lucien Broliard in 1983, Streamers in 83, Secret Honor, Mario in 84, Fool for Love in 85, shoots the OC and Stiggs in 85, The Boy in Blue, Nowhere to Hide, The Kane Mutiny Court Martial, cinematographer on Tanner in 88, which is another Altman production. It's a TV series he did. Vincent and Theo, another movie he did in the 90s. The Player in 92. Bob Roberts in 92. A Home of Our Own in 93. Ready to Wear in 94. Habitat. Hysteria. A Cool Dry Place. To Walk with Lions. The Intruder in 1999. Coast to Coast 2003. Ambulance Girl 2005. And Crossroads, A Story of Forgiveness in 2007.
Huh.
Yeah, not a lot that I recognize.
Yeah, which is a really rarity here.
This was a guy that Altman used a lot from what they said on the bonus features.
Well, before you continue,
yes,
I looked up the Player 1997 TV movie. So it wasn't a TV movie.
Okay.
Let me tell you, don't look at the fucking screen.
I'm not looking. My apologies.
We're having a conversation.
We're having a conversation here. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so 1997 TV movie, it was actually a pilot.
Oh.
Based on the film The Player.
Okay.
Which means that somebody thought this should be a series. But guys, remember, we're not talking about the heyday of HBO.
No.
We're talking about the heyday of episodic TV being very consistent and a little boring.
Yeah.
So apparently it was written by Michael Tolkien, as you said, starred Patrick Dempsey and Michael Parks.
Holy shit. So Dempsey, I'm guessing, is Griffin Mills and is Parks Levinson?
Yeah.
No shit. That's really cool.
Although it says Frank Levison instead of, wasn't he Joel?
Joel Levinson, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a different name.
Yeah.
But I can't find much info. I don't know if this is available anywhere to watch.
Probably YouTube.
I can hunt it down if you want me to.
Possibly. I did find out LA Confidential also got a pilot series that was total dog shit from what I've read about it.
Apparently, there were a lot of movie pilots that just everybody forgot about, and thank goodness that they did.
So, moving down to our IMDb synopsis, it says, a Hollywood studio executive is being sent death threats by a writer whose script he rejected, but which one?
That's pretty good. I mean, considering it's impossible to really say what the hell the player is about.
This is true. My synopsis says, when studio executive Griffin Mills begins to receive threatening postcards from a writer whose screenplay he didn't accept, Griffin is pulled into a web of blackmail, murder, and movie pitches.
All right, that's cute.
Hey.
That's cute. We'll give a little... That was cute. I like that.
Thank you.
I found one 2-minute clip from The Player 1997 on YouTube. So,
check that out.
Well, I mean, I can check my sources.
Okay.
I might be able to find a whole episode or the whole video or whatever. I have no idea how long it is. It's weird that it's listed as a TV movie.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have, there's no runtime on IMDb or anything.
It's probably 3 hours long.
At least. So, but no, not a bad breakdown.
Well, I appreciate that. So moving on to our cast, we have Tim Robbins, who plays Griffin Mill in this. He gets his start in 1982 on St. Elsewhere, Quarterback Princess in 83, Santa Barbara in 84, The Love Boat in 84, No Small Affair in 84, appears in The Shore Thing in 85, Moonlighting, Fraternity Vacation, Amazing Stories in 86, Top Gun in 86, Howard the Duck in 86, Five Corners 87, Bull Durham in 88, Twister, no, not that Twister, the one from 1989.
No.
Cadillac Man in 90, Jacob's Ladder in 1990, Jungle Fever 91, Does the Player in 92, same year he writes and directs Bob Roberts in 92, Shortcuts in 93, The Hudsucker Proxy in 94, Shawshank Redemption in 94, Ready to Wear in 94, IQ in 94, Dead Man Walking, which he's the director on in 95, Nothing to Lose in 97, Arlington Road in 99. He does Austin Powers This Why You Shag Me in 99, The Simpsons, Mission to Mars, High Fidelity, Antitrust, and of course Mystic River in 2003 as well.
My Lord, he was busy.
He was very busy.
Did he just die?
No, remember I'm only going a certain amount on some of these actors.
Oh, okay. So he died.
He did not die.
Dave says he died.
I'm basically only a decade after the movie to see what happened with the movie in regards of his career and everybody else's. What?
I'm just looking at you.
We've discussed this before. Moving on down, we have Cynthia Stevenson, who plays Bonnie Chereau in this. She gets her start in 87 on Max Headroom, Newhart in 1989, Cheers in 89, Double Your Pleasure 89, Empty Nest in 1990, Major Dad 91, The Player in 92, Watch It 93, Dream On in 94.
I vaguely remember her on Dream On.
Forget Paris in 95, Home for the Holidays in 95.
Yes.
Yep. Hope and Gloria in 95, Ally McBeal 98, Happiness in 98, Air
Of
Bud.
course.
Oh, yes.
Soon to come to the program?
Criterion, no.
What, you don't want to talk about Happiness?
Not really, no. Not
what
the slightest.
What a letdown.
Air Bud Golden Receiver in 98, Oh Baby 98, King of the Hill 2002, Agent Cody Banks 2003, According to Jim 2003, Dead Like Me in 2003.
That's what I remember her the
She's
most
the mom,
for is Dead Like Me. Oh, no, I fully remember because I watched Dead Like Me all the way through multiple times.
Did you ever see the TV movie that Showtime
Of course.
did?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I mean, I liked having a wrap up. It wasn't perfect, but I enjoyed it.
It was fun. 6 Feet Under 2005, The L Word in 2006, and Monk in 2006 as well.
Oh, okay.
And wrapping us up, even though I say wrapping us up because everybody's in this movie, but the last big one is Fred Ward, who plays Walter Stuckell in this. He gets a start in 74 in Ginger in the Morning, Quincy M.E. in 76, Tilt in 79, Escape from Alcatraz in 79, The Incredible Hulk in 79, Carney in 1980, Southern Comfort, The Right Stuff, Silkwood, Uncommon Valor, Swing Shift, Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins in 85.
God damn right. Hold the... Remo Williams, that's the first applause.
Yes.
That movie... Back when I lived in Jersey, I had a buddy who was obsessed with that film.
It's a fun movie.
And he would put it on like when we were all like tired and starting to conk out. He'd be like, time for Remo Williams. But of course, my favorite credit of his is in here.
The Hitchhiker in 87, Off Limits in 88, Big Business in 88. Then in 1990, he does a little film called Tremors.
God damn right he does.
And then he does Catch Fire, a.k.a. Backtrack in 1990, Miami Blues, The Dark Wind, Cast a Deadly Spell in 91, The Player in 92. Same year, he does Thunderheart, Bob Roberts, Four Eyes and Six Guns in 92, Shortcuts in 93, Tremors 2 Aftershocks in 96.
Greatest film of all time.
Chain Reaction in 96, Best Man 97, Invasion Earth 98, The Chaos Factor 2000, Road Trip in 2000, and The Crow Salvation in 2000 as well.
The best Crow film.
It's one of my favorites, actually. You haven't even seen it, and I'm going to show it to you, so don't worry.
Okay. I mean, as long as we can still watch I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer.
It'll happen, I'm sure.
I know.
The Player is currently available on Max and Criterion, as we says. You can also rent or buy this wherever you get it. In regards to the Criterion release, it is loaded with bonus content. Cannot recommend it enough. I watched basically all of it to prepare for the show. We already know your first time watching was just now.
Wait, you prepare for the show?
I do. How rude.
I'm going to click X to doubt.
Oh, yeah, X to doubt. Dick. So my first time watching this, I was assigned this movie. I belong to a Discord group that we do this thing called Mandatory Film School, where basically like every 2 or 3 months we do a like 2-month course where we all go through each other's letterbox list and pick movies depending on the assignment of the person running the class.
Sounds horrible.
It's a lot of fun. It's how I've seen a lot of great movies.
It sounds like being in school again.
Anyway, The Player got assigned to me. I had known about the movie. I had heard it was good, but I hadn't seen it. And I mean, needless to say, it blew me away the first time watching it because I just did not expect it to go to the levels it did. Also have the star power it did. And also, I mean, that opening tracking shot, which we'll get into here in a little bit.
It was pretty cool. Yeah, no, it was pretty cool.
And it's just got that old-timey Hollywood feel, the movie.
Old-timey?
Not old-timey, but
1992?
Studio budget, studio.
I mean, granted, that was 32 years ago.
It was 32 years ago. But yeah, studio, it just got that studio Hollywood feel to it, and I love movies about making movies, so this is an easy one for me to check
It's barely
off.
a movie about making movies. No, it's a show business movie.
It's a show business movie, but...
I'm not trying to crap on your point.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is a movie about making a movie has a set.
I said making movies.
I still don't think it's...
We go to 3 different sets, by the way.
Barely.
I mean, we do. You fell asleep for one.
I did. I'm not going to lie. I'm just saying, like, Living in Oblivion, that's a movie about making a movie.
that's entirely a movie about making a movie.
Brutal Massacre. That's a movie
Brutal
about
Massacre.
making
I mean,
movies.
yeah.
Bowfinger. Yeah. So I'm just saying this is to me more of a show business movie.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm not like it's just a little bit of a delineation.
No. I will entirely fuck off the podcast now. It's fine.
Awesome. All right, guys. Good news. It's just you and me now. Don't worry about here. I'll mute him. There we go. Don't worry about everything, guys.
So rude.
What? No. Dave's out, and I'm gonna tell you all about your lifestyle choices, baby.
But no, I was immediately won over by the movie, and I was honestly excited to show you. I was kind of surprised you hadn't seen it, but it was, especially since it was 92 as well.
I'm surprised I hadn't seen it as well.
Yeah, so you want to get into it?
Nah, let's just wrap it up now.
All right, well, thanks for listening, everybody.
All right, thanks, guys. Adios. No, but I will say, I mean, I liked the film.
Yeah.
I think that what really drives the movie to work better is that it's nostalgic now.
Oh, it's nostalgic as fuck.
It's a snapshot of 1992 Hollywood.
Yeah.
And that makes it a lot more fun. I think if I'd seen it in 1992, I would have been a child, a very young child. But I think if I had seen it, I don't know, when I was like 18, I probably would have thought it was okay, but a little boring.
Yeah.
Time has been kind to the film and definitely made it more exciting for me. And that's my initial opinion of it. It is a little slow.
It is a little slow. And also I will say it is a dialogue driven film in regards to specific things that are said and whatnot. I'm going to try to recap them as best I can, but we can't cover everything that happens in this movie.
Well, in a way, very little happens.
Yeah.
Because when there's a lot of dialogue,
it's a lot of movie pitches too.
Well, look, as a person who has written a bunch of screenplays and developed a bunch of screenplays, you literally, when you're outlining a screenplay, you literally say it's like what you do, but in reverse.
Yeah.
Where you narrow it down after watching it. When you're writing a screenplay, it'll be like the outline is literally like so-and-so and so-and-so meet up at a diner, they discuss blank and blank and decide blank. That's it. But that could be 4 pages. That could be 4 minutes on screen. That could be 5 minutes on screen. That could be 1 minute on screen. It's very like that. So that's kind of my point of like, I have a feeling this is going to zoom by because most of it is people talking and the point is kind of secondary. Altman's kind of tapping into he always was kind of tapping into like pre-mumblecore.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
This one's a bit more
mainstream.
Sure. I was going to say a bit more disciplined.
Yeah.
It's like a little bit less leaning into like the super improv-iness, which makes it honestly a little bit easier to follow.
Absolutely.
Not that I don't like the Cassavetes style and stuff. That stuff is fun.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get fucking gold from that stuff.
Absolutely do.
So, but I will say, yeah, there's a lot of that kind of like the camera's really far away and it pulls in.
We've got kind of a long Good Friday situation here again, and with a Dave pick, not unironically. But it's that same thing of like, yes, stuff happens in this movie, but the meat and potatoes of it is everything that's happening around the core plot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for sure.
Yeah.
So anyway, do what you must.
So we open with a shot of the clapboard. We hear quiet on the set, and we just see a beautiful painting as we get the title of the player, and that's when we get a 8-minute tracking shot of a studio lot.
Was it really 8 minutes?
8 minutes long.
Wow.
Yeah.
It felt like 5.
I mean, it goes by quick, but I mean, it is. The first time I saw this, I was just enamored by how smooth it is. Like, you don't even realize, honestly, that it's one
shot. It's a crane shot.
Yeah.
I mean, it was good.
Yeah.
But I mean, Goodfellas wipes its butt with it. Remember the shot where they go through the inside, they go through the back door of the restaurant all the way to the front with Henny Youngman?
Yeah, but they don't go around an entire studio lot.
No, it's harder to go through a restaurant than it would be to go. They're outdoors.
There's that.
I'm not crapping on it. I'm just saying, like, literally what they did was like, they're on a crane. So like the camera goes way up and then it's like, there's this turn, go back down. It's not like they had to have a camera op walking through hallways and stuff. I mean, it was turning and zooming and turning and zooming, which Altman loved zooms.
Yes,
so
he does.
it makes sense. And it was a really cool way to kind of introduce the idea that everybody's doing stuff all at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that there's not a lot of synergy.
No.
And everybody's kind of a phony. I mean, I like all of that.
Yeah.
I do. I thought that was a cool way to open it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've seen one shots that were way more whoa.
I get that. I think what I really like about this is it establishes basically all of our main players in the movie. I mean, because we meet everybody in this first 5 to 8 minutes.
The players?
Because the only person we don't meet is the love interest, but she comes soon enough.
Well, the other love interest.
Other love interest? Yeah, you're not wrong. So we see a secretary getting scolded, or an assistant getting scolded by the secretary of the studio. We see the huge studio lot, and then we watch somebody drive up in a Range Rover, and that's when we meet Griffin Mills, played by Tim Robbins. He steps out, and he's immediately bombarded by a guy with a movie pitch, and this is one of 100 movie pitches in this movie.
There are so many movie pitches, and I do like that a lot of them they did in that mumblecore kind of improv-y way, because like they start talking over each other, and I don't even think I picked up half the pitches because of that.
Oh yeah, I mean the pitches,
which I thought was funny, is that I couldn't even follow the pitch.
They're quick pitches too. Like I mean, because Griffin
25 words or less.
25 words or less. Yeah. So I mean, Griffin steps out and he's immediately bombarded by a guy with the pitch, and he walks past him. Then we meet Walter Stuckow, who's the head of security at the studio. Then we follow Griffin into his office, but we're outside of a window as he's getting pitched, which is The Graduate 2 by the original writer of The Graduate, by the way.
Yeah. And his pitch is terrible.
It's terrible.
It just sounds like such a piece of crap.
Like Mrs. Robinson is in a coma, but it's supposed to be funny.
And she lives with the guy and the girl who got married at the end of it. Yeah, like what?
So Griffin goes into his office. We see a bunch of movie pitches. We also meet Bonnie Chereau on the lot, and she's tending to an injured guy who gets hit by a mail cart, so he's down on the ground. There's a lot of chaos happening.
I don't see how the gender of the cart is relevant.
We see a lot of chaos on the movie lot, but also meet, again, all the players of the movie.
Yeah, no, it's a great way to introduce everybody.
Including Joel Levinson. He's the head of the studio. He arrives and he goes in for a meeting. And we also hear discussions, people are walking past, that somebody is moving into the studio and that there may be a buyout happening. Larry Levy is a name that's thrown around, who is originally from Fox, but he has left Fox early to come go into the studio.
Well, what they're saying is that right now the studio's in a downturn.
Yeah.
Which they talk about how like it's happened to Universal, it's happened to Paramount, and right now we're having it. So because they mention as the plot progresses that having anything that could put the studio in a worse position would leave them open to getting bought out or getting a hostile takeover or whatever. So they're very careful. All they need right now is like nobody to do anything fucked up, and for a hit to happen.
Yeah. So we keep hearing names being dropped on these pitches of who they want. Bruce Willis, Julia Roberts, over and over again.
I don't know if you know this, but that's how you pitch.
Oh, yeah.
No, but like, I mean, when you pitch to a studio sort, even like a larger indie studio.
Yeah.
Your goal is to get them to visualize your pitch so that they'll say yes.
Well, that's also like keep comparing movies. Like, what is it? Pretty Woman meets Out of Africa.
Oh yeah, that's a very common one too. But like, you could literally be in a pitch meeting and say like, we have a daring, handsome, strong hero. Think The Rock. You may never in a billion years get the Rock. You just say, think The Rock, because you're trying to get them to see the movie in their stupid little brains so that they'll say yes and they'll give you some money. But like, it's funny because one of my favorite scenes is coming up in a little bit. When they pitch it, the guy is just going crazy. He's like making sound effects and all this stuff. Some of the best pitches are done that way.
Oh, yeah.
Because executives have zero fucking imagination. So if you got sock puppets, pull them off your goddamn toes. It'd make your sale. Anyway.
So we hear Griffin as like possibly getting replaced by Larry Levy, and that's when we go into Griffin's office. He's getting another pitch for a movie. When we saw the guy get taken out by the cart, we also went into a close-up on a postcard. And as Griffin's sitting in the studio hearing this pitch from this other guy, he gets the postcard, he turns it over, and it says, "I hate your guts, asshole."
It sure does.
And that's when Griffin ends his pitch meeting. He goes to see Joel Levinson walking into a secret meeting in progress that he had no idea was happening.
Yeah. I'm not happy with the postcards.
Yeah, I know you're not.
I got to be honest.
I know you're not. So Levinson welcomes him in. He introduces him to Reg Goldman, who is wanting to get into producing pictures. Griffin excuses himself, and he goes to Levinson's secretary, Celia, who tells him, don't ask what's going on. Like, don't worry about it. And, don't feel threatened by Reggie. And Griffin tells her that he's not worried about it. He's more so worried about Larry Levy. And she's like, oh, don't worry about Larry. Like, he's just being brought in as, just somebody that we're using that just recently left Fox.
Yeah, he's joining the team.
So Celia won't give him much information. So Griffin ends up going to lunch, and that's when we see he's at this place, and once again, surrounded by celebrities. We see Martin Mull, Angelica Houston, John Cusack. Griffin goes to introduce himself to Houston and Cusack, and they really don't want anything to do with him.
Correct.
They're pretty quick to pass.
Yeah. And the entire reason we're supposedly watching the film,
Martin Mull's sitting at a table diagonal from them.
And he's like drinking some water or something.
And laughing. He does laugh.
Maybe.
So that's when he requests, like, they sit down with his friends, and he requests, can we talk about anything besides Hollywood? We're civilized people. And the table goes quiet for a little bit and then just erupts into laughter.
Yeah, I know. It's a pretty good moment.
Yeah. So that's when he also goes to his car. He gets his car from the valet, and this time he has another postcard on his car with Humphrey Bogart on the thing, and it says, "I told you my idea. You told me you'd get back to me. Well," with a question mark.
Gee, I wonder what's up with these postcards. I sure hope that it's not a waste of time.
It's not a waste of time.
When I started watching the movie, I thought the whole point of the movie was going to be the postcards.
Well, we'll find out, I guess.
I mean, in a way it is, and in a way it's not.
I mean,
I'm not. That's me being as fair as I can. I'm trying to be fair to the film.
Yeah, you're critiquing and being fair.
No, but I mean, like, in a way, you could argue that the postcards are so important.
Yeah.
That I'm way off, but I just think that when we get there, that final payoff on the postcards, not a fan.
I get
just
it.
Not a fan of the payoff.
I get it. So we find out he's gotten 5 of these postcards now in 2 weeks. Jan, one of his assistants, is telling him, why don't you talk to security? And Griffin's like, well, I don't really have a reason to go to them. Like, what am I going to say? Like, I'm being stalked by somebody, but I can't figure out who it is.
Yeah, really.
So he basically says that he's just going to figure this out on his own. So then Bonnie comes in, sits in his lap, and she asks about going to the Springs this week. And he says, well, actually, I got invited to a party at Dick Mellon's house tonight, which we find out is his lawyer.
I was so excited when I first heard, because I thought he said Dick Miller's.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, we're going to a party at Dick Miller's.
Hey, I got some canned soup.
You want some soup? Hey, only 25 cents.
So they run into Marley Matlin at the party, and Griffin also introduces Bonnie to Dick Mellon. Griffin then tries to talk to Dick about the postcards, but he's telling him, again, he's like, I don't know what's going on. I think it's a pissed off writer. And Dick Mellon kind of, again, like, he's like, well, you shouldn't worry about it. If it comes to something, it'll become a something, and kind of wavers him off again. Yeah,
well, it seems like nobody likes him very much.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, just in reflecting on this film.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. Like, nobody in the Hollywood system, it's like, if you're not a winner, nobody gives a fuck about you.
Yeah.
Then your studio has a hit or two, and then all of a sudden Burt Reynolds will be nice to you again.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong.
So that's the way it is. So when you're down low, people love to walk on your neck.
Yeah.
And then when you're up high, they love to walk on your cock, I guess.
I will also mention at the party, we do see Jack Lemmon playing piano. We never talk to him. He's just there playing piano.
I know, but he looks miserable. Did you notice that? Like
a little bit.
And the funny thing is, I looked at him, I was like, man, Jack Lemmon looks rough. And I was like, this was right before Grumpy Old Man.
Yeah, I was going to say, like right before.
He looked way healthier in Grumpy Old Men.
So Griffin notices also Larry Levy is there actually talking to Jeff Goldblum at the party, playing Jeff Goldblum. Wearing amazing sweater.
Wearing a sweater that I cannot publicly comment on.
So,
my lord.
That's when he notices Larry is there, and at the party, like, Dick confirms that, hey, like, the rumors are true, because Griffin has been saying for the first, like, couple scenes, like, is anything happening? They're like, oh, no, it's just rumors. And he's like, you should always believe the rumors. You're just the last person to believe them.
Yeah. He's like, but his response is, I'm the last one to hear them.
I'm the last one to hear about it, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's clear that Griffin's job is actually in jeopardy now, and he gets this confirmed. So that's when we cut to Bonnie and Griffin back at his place, and they are together in a jacuzzi as Bonnie is reading a sex scene from a script that she's reading, and she's also nude. And they're just listening to the script as she reads it, and then he also starts talking about a script idea that he has, but in reality, he's actually pitching his own problem with a postcard stalker.
It was a weird scene.
It was.
But I liked it.
Yeah.
Because basically it's like he needs advice on his life.
Yeah.
But he won't tell her that it's his life. So he presents it as a work problem.
Yeah.
And then she tries to solve it as a work problem by basically telling him what she thinks the next logical step in the story would be.
And how long he's going to be stalking him.
Yeah.
She says, like, I think 5 months is like what she gives it.
Yeah, but it's such a weird moment where I feel like it really suggests how he cannot be real.
Yeah.
How his whole life is a fugazi. Because this is literally a woman that he's openly dating.
Mm-hmm.
They're spending a lot of time together. They're clearly not just a workplace fling.
Yeah.
She like sits on his lap in front of people.
Yep.
They all know that they're dating. And then he has a real serious personal problem and he presents it as a script problem.
As a script pitch, yeah.
Why not just tell her, hey, somebody's harassing me? And honestly, it wouldn't even hurt his status.
No.
Because he pisses a lot of people off.
Well, and not to mention, too, like, she even asked, she's like, well, why don't you ask the writer? He's like, oh, I don't know who it is. She's like, you don't know the writer of the screenplay you just pitched me?
So like, I mean, it's some kids from a TV.
Yeah, so she kind of sees through his shit right away. So then we next see he's out to another luncheon, going to a meeting with Levinson this time, and Burt Reynolds is now out to lunch with, I didn't recognize who it was, but Burt Reynolds is there.
Yeah, and he says hello to Burt, and when Burt says hi, and then as he walks away, he goes, fucking asshole.
Fun fact, Reynolds, none of the people in the film that are cameos read a script or anything like that, so that was just an improv on his part.
Oh, I'm sure Altman told him, like, you hate him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he goes to a meeting with Levinson, and Griffin tells him that, he's flat out not going to work with Larry Levy, and if he has to work for him, he'll quit. And Levinson then threatens him with a breach of contract, and he says that he'll follow through with it.
Well, threaten in a... It's a very lighthearted way.
Yeah.
He just goes, now, I'm not going to let you do that. And then when he's like, I'll quit, he's like, you have 1.5 years left on your contract, and if you don't show up, I will sue you.
Fine you for every day and sue you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's not like yelling at him. He's just kind of informing like, yeah, I know you got a lot of bluster, but this is what we're doing.
And we should say, too, that Levinson is played by the great Breon James, who unfortunately left us. But, I mean, every time that guy is on screen, he always just steals my attention.
Yeah, I mean, he's so much more, like, typecast to be just a criminal.
Yeah.
And in this movie, not only is he playing a movie executive, but he's playing, like, the least sleazebag of the whole film.
Yeah, it's surprising for his typecasting
outside of his
usually.
Cast, his type, yeah.
So he tells him that he wants an answer by this afternoon. Griffin at the table gets another postcard, and in the name of all the writers, it says, I'm going to kill you. So that's now 3 postcards that we've gotten since the start of the movie.
Hey, maybe it's an unrelated death threat.
Could be, who knows? So Griffin decides he wants to try and track down the postcard delivery because he realizes that it's not postmarked. So he talks to Jan and the mailroom delivery guy, and he's like, I want you to go to the mailroom, see if you can find out who handed this over to the delivery service. I want a name, go on to the mailroom and see if we can find somebody. He starts frantically searching his past calendars because he realizes it's somebody that he's had to have talked to, because they're saying, you haven't called me back. So he finds out that the guy's name is possibly David Cahane. So he drives out to his house because he has his address. He sees he's not home, but he sees a woman inside. So he calls outside the house, and this is where we get one of the creepiest scenes of the movie.
And by calls outside the house, we mean he calls the house's phone on his cellular phone.
And stands outside the house.
Yeah, it's a good scene.
Oh, it's a very good
But
scene.
it's a very off-putting scene because he's spying on her.
Yeah.
And she has no idea he's anywhere nearby.
Yeah.
But I liked the scene. It was just, it was off-putting, and I think that's the point.
Yeah. So he calls her, and we meet June, and he asks for Griffin. She tells him that he's not in. Griffin then introduces himself as Griffin Mills, and she says, "Oh, the dead man." And he's like, "What'd you say?" And she's like, "Oh, that's what David calls you."
I mean, that's what I call you.
This is true. That is my nickname sometimes.
I would never call you a man.
So the two talk on the phone while Griffin stalks outside the house, finds out her last name is Goodman's daughter, and that she is from Iceland, is what she says. She also tells him that David went to Pasadena for a showing of The Bicycle Thief, and she states that she doesn't go to movies because life's too short, because he has a whole conversation with her, and she basically gives him the point of telling him where David is. She talks about her art, because we find out that she's an artist, because she's doing art.
Well, she's literally like in the middle of painting while she's talking to him on the phone.
So Griffin makes his way to the screening of The Bicycle Thief. He goes into the theater, he's looking around, and he sees this guy leave as the film's over with a ponytail. He follows him out, names him as David Cahane, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you have me mistaken." That's when we see Cahane walk out, played by Vincent D'Onofrio.
Damn right. And a young D'Onofrio.
Young D'Onofrio, and he introduces himself to Cahane, and he's like, "Oh, so you're 6 months passes, now you want to talk to me about my script." He clearly sees through his bullshit right away.
Yeah, but he's coming at him hard. He's like, "No, I want to hire you to do something.
Yeah.
Like, I want to hire you to write something. I can't guarantee anything will get made, but we'll work together."
Yeah, and he hasn't even confirmed that he is actually the writer yet. He's just the number one suspect.
That he's the writer of the postcards.
Of the postcards, yeah. So through conversation, they go to a bar, and that's when he tries to pitch him one more time. He's like, "Hey, I'll buy the script from you. I can't promise it'll get made." And he's like, "I see right through you, dude. Like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you chasing me? Like, you didn't even want to come see The Bicycle Thief. Like, you clearly had other motives to be there."
Yeah, he mentions, like, "I saw you come in.
Yeah.
Like, in the last 5 minutes, you tripped over my foot."
Yeah. So he's like, you're still on my list. Nothing's going to change. And he gets up and leaves. So Griffin follows him out, and Griffin goes to his car, and we see Cahane is right by the car in an alleyway pissing. And Cahane comes at him full bore.
Starts really yelling at him. And starts saying, basically saying that guy, what was his name, that's coming to the company?
Levy.
That Larry Levy is taking over. And he's like, "How do you know that? Why'd you say that?" He's like, "Read the trades,
Read the
man.
trades, dude.
You're out. Larry Levy's in."
And then he mocks him. He's like, "Hey, can I borrow your cellular phone?" He acts like he's calling Levy and just starts bad-mouthing him and basically saying, like, you're never going to be anything. I'm a writer. What do you still have?
Which is one of my favorite moments in the film, because he's like, "Hey, I can write. What can you do?"
So Griffin trying to reason with them, he goes to his car, and that's when Cahane swings his car door over and knocks him over into the side. Like, what would you call it? Like a gulch?
A gulch?
I can't think of a word.
At all?
No, I really can't.
Potato.
Shut up.
I'm just giving you a word. No, he falls over there's a break in a guardrail. It's literally a concrete staircase that goes downward.
Yeah.
I don't know what you call it. It's like an alley.
It's like an alley,
like a alley that goes underground, and he falls pretty far.
Falls far into it, and Cahane freaks out.
Well, yeah, because he dropped him like a good 6 feet.
Oh yeah, he falls
onto concrete.
Yeah.
Although they didn't put a sound effect in when he falls,
No.
which I thought was really weird.
It is odd.
So yeah, he pushes him, but then realizes that he accidentally made him fall. Like this guardrail was missing a piece.
Yeah.
So he just falls right off and goes right down into this like concrete space.
Some water is filled in, like there's a huge puddle down there, and so he goes down to check on him, and that's when Griffin just takes his moment and just starts beating the shit out of him, putting his head into the puddle, and he's just like, you're not going to tell anybody, like basically keep it to yourself. Holds him down until the bubbles stop coming up.
Not entirely. No. As he leaves him with his face in the water.
Yeah.
And then as he's about to actually leave, he notices like he has not lifted his head up out of the water. So he comes over there. Homie is dead.
He's dead. So David Cahane is dead at this point. So seeing his handprint on the car, he'd go ahead, takes advantage of the moment and grabs his wallet, takes the cash out, basically staged it as a mugging, smashing his passenger window of his car.
Yeah, because to get rid of his fingerprint.
Yeah. And just leaving him directly there. So he goes to leave, and then that's the end of David Cahane.
Yeah, it was a brief but powerful cameo.
Cameo, indeed. So we hear echoes across a boardroom as we see Bonnie, Larry, and Reggie and the rest of the crew in Levinson's office. They're discussing events and everything, and that's when Celia goes to Levinson, who is outside the office, and she's like, hey, I know that Griffin's not here, but we really need to start this meeting. So that's when they go in to start the meeting. We see Levinson sit down, and in the window behind him, Griffin's car pulls up. He apologizes for being late. Jan hands him a big package, but he gives it back to her. So then he joins the meeting, introduces Griffin to Larry, and he states that he got out of Fox a week early, and now he is on board with them. So officially,
Yay.
Larry Levy is on the set.
Oh, yes. Well, he's on the lot.
On the lot,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
So Larry comments on it's preposterous that they're spending millions and millions of dollars on screenplay when they could just come up with the stories themselves.
It's a pretty perfect scene about like just how dickish these types of studio people can be, because he's literally like, why are we paying writers for ideas? Hand me that newspaper.
Read me a story.
And so they read like the headline of a news story, and then he just says like, oh, it'll be a tearjerker, the kind of thing this guy would direct about this and this. Ha!
Yeah, they go around the table like 3 times.
Yeah. And but as they're doing that, the paper gets in front of our homeboy Griffin, who sees the headline of man murdered in Pasadena.
In Pasadena Alley.
Yeah.
So he knows immediately that the body's been found. He knows that they've identified him. And Griffin also makes a joke. He's like, well, if we're going to get rid of the writers, I guess this could just be easy. Now we just need to start getting rid of the actors and directors. Work everything out.
Yeah, well, he said, what was he said? If we could just get rid of the actors and directors, we'd really have something.
Yeah, we'd be onto something.
Which is perfect.
So good.
We'd be onto something.
So Griffin returns to his office. He finds Walter waiting on him, and Walter brings up David Cahane, talking about his murder. And then Walter's like, let me give you a scenario here. He goes, basically accuses Griffin. He's like, you were mad at this guy. You drove out to Pasadena. You confronted him. He wasn't happy. One thing led to another, and you accidentally killed him. Like, it just happens.
Yeah, shit like that happens every day.
So then Griffin's like, well, I don't think that's how it went down. And he's like, what did the police think? And, Walter states he thinks it's a botched robbery. Griffin states that he didn't kill him, but he does then admit to meeting him. And Walter's like, why'd you lie to me? And he's like, I'm not in a good place right now. This is not a good time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shit going on. And Walter questions him about the girlfriend. He's like, well, did you know June by chance? Like, did you know who she is? And he kind of denies everything, but he comments on acting like you're somebody that's acting guilty, just as Griffin's fax in the office starts up with another message from the same guy that says, surprise. So Cahane was not the postcard writer.
No, he was not.
No, he was not.
The fax machine foo in this film.
Yes, car fax machine foo.
Oh, God, yeah.
So we cut to Cahane's funeral. We're seeing a shot, which I love this opening shot because we see a giant dead fish in this pond and all the other fish are just feeding on it.
Yeah, it's very symbolic.
Very symbolic. We see June sitting in the front row as Griffin approaches. We see a guy who's dressed like Cahane giving a speech of like one of Cahane's last writings that he had that he didn't finish. And then we also see another guy approaching from the side. So June walks past Griffin, notices him, and she's like, do I know you? Like, you're not a writer. And he introduces himself as the guy that she was on the phone with the other night.
Right, yeah.
And she states that he's the only person that she knows here. He shares his condolences, stating that, Cahane was a very talented writer, and June disagrees, saying that she thinks that he was the most untalented writer.
Oh, who doesn't love a fine woman like that?
She throws shade pretty quickly to him.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
So
remember, Cahane referred to her as the Ice Queen.
As the Ice Queen, yes, yeah. Yes. So he apologizes also that he was the last person to see him alive, and June states that she doesn't feel bad because she relates this back to her parents' dead, that she wasn't sad, she just immediately felt the absence.
Yeah. Sounds to me like she's cold-blooded.
So she asks Griffin if he would take her home. Griffin notices the other gentleman off to the side as he helps June into her car, and that's when we find Griffin and June at her house admiring her art, and she states that she has no gallery. She just does the art because she enjoys it, and also none of the pieces are ever finished in her eyes.
Yeah, she sounds like an insufferable shrew.
So she comments on the police talking to her about him, asking him why he was meeting with David and why it was so urgent. He comments that he really liked his script and lies, and he also wanted to pitch an upper ending because apparently David's original script had a very downer ending, which does not work in Hollywood.
No. Sure doesn't.
June comments that he was never one for happy endings. She takes a couple Polaroids of Griffin, telling him that she might paint him into one of her paintings as an Icelandic warrior, but a thief of fire. And he probably wouldn't like that because as a studio head, he wouldn't, like the fact that a thief or a person of criminal behavior is one that is being, I guess, appreciated as a hero.
I mean, in Hollywood.
So Griffin questions, should thieves pay for their crimes? And June questions, isn't knowing you committed the crime suffering enough?
Isn't it? No.
And Griffin calls her a pragmatic anarchist.
Which, I mean, I stand by insufferable shrew, but that works too.
We cut back to Griffin's office where he meets Detective Susan Avery, played by Whoopi Goldberg, with Walter, and she's admiring an Oscar that's on display in the office. Griffin welcomes her into the office, and they sit down, and he apologizes for not contacting her sooner, and she questions, why didn't you contact me? Like, that you were a suspect, like, why didn't you reach out to us? And he's like, it was just a bad time, and also, I didn't know what to say. So she asked what he met with Cahane about, and that's when he tells it's the screenplay that he wanted to produce. And Avery asked him more questions about a personal nature of knowing if he knew anything about Cahane, and he denies that he did. And that's when she starts to get a little uneasy with him and questions if he saw Cahane in the parking lot that night. And he comments that no, he drives a Range Rover, so he parks it on the street because alleys are dangerous. And she goes, oh, so if you were driving a shitty car, you would have parked in the back. And he's like, if I was driving a shitty car, I might not have been alive the next day. Yeah. So immediately does not set well with Detective Avery, and that's when he goes to watch dailies as he's discussing things with Levinson at the screening room. Griffin gets a call for a dinner meeting with a Joe Gillis, and he says he's not familiar with that name, and Levinson's like, oh, well, that was, I can't think of the actor's name. One of the actors from Sunset Boulevard, that was an alias he went by in the film.
Oh, okay.
So immediately he knows that this is possibly most likely the postcard guy. So he goes to the meeting and he runs into Malcolm McDowell, who greets him, and he's like, hey, next time you want to say something behind my back, say it to my face.
Yeah, next time you want to talk shit about
alike.
me, say it to my face.
Yeah, you Hollywood types are all alike. So Griffin is then spotted by Andy Savella, played by the late, great Dean Stockwell, who introduces him to Andy McDowell and Tom Oakley. And we also see the gentleman from the funeral has followed him to the bar as well. And Savella wants to give him a pitch that Oakley has, and Griffin states like he's got a meeting, he doesn't have time. So we see Griffin go to a table by the pool. Savella follows him out and basically makes him think that like he set up the appointment when he confesses like, oh no, like I don't know what you're talking about. Like you're just here, I'm seizing opportunity.
Yeah, he starts bringing up postcards, and he's just like has no idea what he's talking about.
Has no idea what he's talking about. So Savella comes out spooking Andy. He's got a great pitch reintroducing Tom Oakley, and that's when we get this pitch basically about a prisoner on death row that has a DA that she's fallen in love with, and the DA thinks that she's innocent, and a whole fiasco happens. There's just a huge pitch.
It's a touching, initially racial story, although that goes away really fast when the movie gets made. It's
Spoilers.
Like an intense racial drama about the death penalty and justice and all that shit.
We hear an opening about how they're standing in the rain and they have candles on their umbrellas, and like,
they look like China lanterns.
Yeah, Japanese lanterns and all this stuff. And he hears this pitch and he's like, call me tomorrow. We'll absolutely talk about this. But the one thing that I do want to mention is Tom Oakley is adamant that there are no stars in this picture. This is not a Hollywood picture.
No, we get unknowns only.
And it's a very sad ending. The woman does not survive the death penalty.
No Hollywood ending.
No Hollywood ending at all. And they're calling it habeas corpus.
Habeas corpus, baby. I mean, it just flows right off the tongue.
Yes.
Like the rural juror.
So that's when Griffin at the table gets a postcard with a Death Valley and a rattlesnake on it. And in bold letters, it says, I told you not to come alone. So Griffin excuses himself and tells them to call the studio tomorrow. He gets his car from the valet, begins to drive it down Sunset. And that's when his car phone rings, but it's actually his fax machine in his car.
That was the first thing I said. I was like, is that a fax machine in his car?
That is a fax machine in his car. So the fax prints out and states, look under your raincoat. So he picks his raincoat up to find a box labeled don't open till Christmas as he lifts the lid and finds a live rattlesnake inside the box.
Yeah, which, by the way, does elevate this beyond adorable harassment.
Yeah.
I mean, that could kill him.
That could kill him.
But luckily, homie is just enraged. He pulls the car over, grabs a stick of some sort.
It's his umbrella.
It's his umbrella.
Yeah.
And just beats that snake to death.
Yeah, strips his coat off, beats the snake to death, and then pulls the snake out of the car, gets back in the car and drives, goes to June's house, and she sees that he is clearly distressed, so she pours him a drink, and that's when we see that June is panning him like she said she was going to. He comments on the snake scared the shit out of him, and she's like, what happened tonight? And she that's when he tells her that, it isn't easy for him, and he tells her that he came close to dying tonight, and all he could think about was her. Confessing that she has been the only thing on his mind, and since the first time they spoke, that he was outside the window, confessing that he was watching her the first time they had the phone conversation.
Yeah, she's okay with like a lot of fucked up things.
She gets very moved by finding out that he was there.
Yeah, I don't get it.
So we see June reacting flattered as she asks, does he want to make love to her? Griffin states that he does want to make love to her, and she comments that it's too soon, but it is strange how things happen. But she would go anywhere with him if he just asked, adding they mustn't hurry this, and tells him that he better leave because she thinks she's going to cry. So she opens the door for him, telling him to go home, get some sleep, and call her to invite her out for a proper date tomorrow.
Oh, because she's a right good lady.
So the next morning, Savella and Oakley are in Griffin's office, and they call Larry Levy on his car phone and do the pitch to him over the phone. Larry's like, hey, Griffin, take me off speaker. And he's like, what do you think about this thing with no stars? And Larry is immediately won over, but he asks about the stars. And that's when Griffin's like, well, Levinson, his first 2 really popular pictures had no stars in it, made a bunch of money. So Levy is like, all right, let's do this. Like, call Levinson. Let's get this greenlit. Let's act on this quick. And that's when he's like, can you call him? And he's like, well, actually, I'm on my way to an AA meeting. He goes, I didn't know you were an alcoholic. He goes, well, I'm not. It's just that's where all the deals are being made.
Yeah, no, that's a great line. But and for real, what was the guy who ran Disney through the 90s who ran Touchstone and everything?
Oh, damn it.
Eisner?
Mike Eisner. Michael Eisner.
Was it Michael Eisner?
Yeah, Michael Eisner.
Well, he joked that they cast Touchstone Pictures out the back of the Betty Ford Center.
Yes, he did.
Because that's like they would be like, oh, Robin Williams just got out of rehab. He'll do it half his rate. Good Morning Vietnam.
Yeah.
That was like a real thing, especially in the late 80s and early 90s, that it was just you would go to where somebody had just gotten out of rehab and you'd make a deal with them, which
that doesn't, I don't know. I think that happens anymore.
I think it absolutely.
Oh, you think it does?
Does.
Okay.
Are you kidding?
Oh, wait. Yeah, no. I had to think. Yeah, no, it absolutely does.
I mean, I think it's just different now.
Yeah, much different.
But no, it's just like when they're at their most vulnerable, it's like, hey, wouldn't you like to work again?
Mm-hmm.
And on one hand, they are helping you, but on the other hand, it's like, so why'd you become a drug addict? Hollywood was stressful? Want more?
So Larry is in on all the risk of a reality picture. So Levinson states that, they have a meeting with him, and he states, if we're going to do this, is there fucking in the picture? There needs to be sex. Like, if we're going to have a prison drama, there has to be sex.
Yeah, if it's going to be so dry, it's got to have some of that.
So he offers Larry the picture as Bonnie tries to defend it as Griffin's project, but Griffin is fine giving it up because he unveiled in a previous scene that his idea is that he's going to give this project to Levy. Levy is going to fall behind on it, and then Griffin's going to come in and basically save the day.
Well, and they're going to do it in New York, right?
Going to do it in New York,
so he'll be out of his hair.
Yeah. So he actually sends Bonnie to New York because she needs to get a book optioned for a movie. So Bonnie is questioning why, is she given the project? Why is he giving the project over? And also why he sent her to New York. Questioning, is he seeing somebody else? So he tries to get rid of her, gives her a peck on the cheek, but she is just not having any with his, but she has to go to New York anyway. So that's when we also see that we are going to a gala now, and we see celebs out the ass. We see Cher, we see Gary Busey with a mullet.
Yeah, Busey with a mullet was one I was not expecting.
Elliot Gould, Nick Nolte. So Griffin shows up, and he has June as his date. Levinson goes up giving a speech about how they're doing a huge donation to the museum, and this is a big turning point for the studio. He invites Griffin up to give a speech as we see more celebs in attendance, but also the man from the funeral is also at the gala as well. Griffin concludes his speech by saying that movies are now art more than ever, and he is complimented as he sits down by Cher and Larry, but he's definitely out of touch with this moment. He's still a little on edge.
Yeah, I would agree.
So he receives then another postcard, tries to wave it off, taking June to the dance floor, and that's when we see a limo pull up later, dropping Griffin and June off outside of June's house. And we also see that the man from the funeral is now tailing them. And Griffin asks about coming in, and June says, not tonight, but soon, as they share a kiss. And Griffin says that he's going to take her to Acapulco this weekend.
Yeah, he is.
They're going to get away, and that's when we see the man the next morning in front of Griffin's house as Griffin's getting ready to go into his car. He checks his mailbox, the man does, and that's when Griffin goes out to the front gate, and that's when the man steps out, revealing that he is actually a police as he shows his badge.
A
policeman. A detective. A detective policeman.
Is that his last? His name is his last name is Policeman. Detective Policeman.
Attorney at law. So he's introduced himself as Detective DeLongpre, and that is played by the great Lyle Lovett.
Yes. I hadn't seen Lyle Lovett in forever.
In a while, yeah. So he invites him to the station to look at mugshots, asking him to fall into Pasadena, and also, please put on a seatbelt.
Yeah, well, he's a cop.
So we cut to the police station. Griffin is reintroduced to Detective Avery, and Griffin questions if there's a break in the case, and Avery questions, if not, why would they bring him here? And that's when DeLongpre reminds him of, you're looking at mugshots. So Goldberg shows him the mugshots, but the police station is just chaotic. There's a whole dialogue going on about Todd Browning's freaks. about a search for tampons. And
yeah, it's just a whole mess.
It's a whole mess. So she questions if he went out with, if he went out with June, and he also questions if they have a witness. He confirms he did go out with June, and Avery questions have they known each other long. It's a little suspect that he's going out with a dead man's girlfriend so quickly.
You think?
Just a little bit.
I don't know about all that.
So he states they did meet after Cahane's death. She questions if Griffin has fucked her. This gets him completely, he's offended by this question. He's like, well, I guess I would answer that if my lawyer was here, and if my lawyer was here, I wouldn't answer that. So she questions him again, and that's when he starts, questioning, like, what's going on here? And we end the scene really weird with everybody laughing at him at the station, and he's just paranoid.
Yeah, it's really weird, but he was like crazy jumpy. Which is weird. It's almost like he murdered the guy.
Murdered somebody. It's weird. So we next see Griffin in his office as Walter tells him to get a good lawyer, especially if he went to Pasadena with the intent to kill. Walter also finds out that he's got a planned trip to Puerto Vallarta now, calling it risky, and Jan questions why he's going there, as Griffin comments, because Larry could take the office in 3 days. That's why, it's risky for him to leave right now. And Bonnie returns and states that she got the book, asks Griffin, if he's going to Mexico this weekend because she heard, commenting that, he took his girlfriend or his June to a party with hundreds of several of her closest friends. So how did she think that he wasn't going to find out? So it's at this point then that we see that they are kind of just on the outs. Like Griffin is really being cold to her. And that's when comments that, she got the book, and also tells him to have a good trip before we see her storming out. We see Griffin arrive at the airport, but he spots Detective Longpree also at the airport now with police.
Yeah, they're everywhere watching.
So he makes a lie up that he forgot his passport, and instead they're going to drive 2 hours out into the desert to a hot springs resort that he has. June questions if they're hiding, and he comments that they're hiding from everybody.
Aww.
So we see them driving through the desert. They arrive at the hot springs resort, and we see them sitting down to a nice dinner. June is clearly won over and asking, do places like this really nice like this really exist? And he says, only in the movies.
Oh, ugh.
So romantic.
Ugh. Cringe.
So Griffin explains it's all about the calls and the pitches, basically, as they go out to side and they're dancing, and she wants to know more about like what he does for the movie business. And he says, it's all about calls and pitches, and they only have one thing from him. They want him to say yes, but the studio can only say yes to 12 pictures a year, which makes it very difficult.
That's rookie numbers.
And they hear 50,000 stories a year, so it's hard to sometimes, be a nice guy. And because of that, he makes enemies, adding that David was apparently an enemy of his. And she says, well, what makes a successful movie? He says suspense, laughter, violence, hope, heart, nudity, sex, and happy endings. And that's when June questions, what about reality? And we cut to probably the steamiest love scene of the entire film.
Well, we literally mean like body heat wise, because it's the entire scene is just their faces mushing into each other and heavy breathing into each other's faces as they're making love. But then he confesses to killing
David Cahane,
during the love scene, and she's just fine with it.
She's fine with it. She even tells him that she loves him, and she tells him that he doesn't have to say it, but he keeps telling her, and so he confesses, and she's like, "That's fine, I love you." So the next day, they're in a mud bath together.
Of course they are, did I mention just heinous shrew?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Good.
So Griffin also gets a call from Dick Mellon, who tells him that Levinson was fired and he's packing up his office. Reggie went home with the clap, and that he also needs to question him about Cahane, asking him why he didn't tell him. And he's like, well, I tried to tell you. And he's like, well, apparently didn't try hard enough. Anyway, you need to be back here in 4 hours and go to the police station in Pasadena for a lineup because they have a witness from the night Cahane was murdered.
Yeah, they do, or somewhat.
So
or something.
We cut to the police station, and we meet Mr. Gerard, and we also see Walter is there. Gerard is his lawyer appointed by Dick Mellon, and Gerard tells him there's nothing to worry about as the woman is old. She lived across the street, but she can't see very well. So then we see Griffin take his place in the lineup with 6 other guys, one of which is Detective DeLong Dupree. And
literally Lyle Lovett's in there, baby.
Lyle Lovett's in there. So we see the woman come in, and she is coached by Detective Avery, and then that's when the woman mistakes number 3, which is DeLongpree as the guy.
I knew he was a villain.
Detective Avery is not pleased. Walter and Gerard tell Griffin that he's lucky. He's free to go as the detectives watch him walk away from the police station from the top window. We then cut to 1 year later as we are now inside a prison. We see a gas chamber. We see Susan Sarandon. We see Peter Falk. And we pan to a cell revealing Julia Roberts as an inmate with Ray Walston giving her last rites.
Yeah, so now she's going into the gas chamber.
Yes.
And as the gas chamber fills, Bruce Willis bursts out with a shotgun,
steals it from a guard. He bursts into the room,
shoving guards out of the way, blows open the glass.
And that's when we cut to a screening room as we see they are watching this movie. Levy, Bonnie Shrew, Griffin, all of them are watching it. He blows the window out, saves Julia Roberts, and she goes, what took you so long? And he goes, traffic was a bitch. The end.
The chef's kiss of how ruined the concept is the traffic was a bitch.
Yeah.
Because that's so just like, what is this, a Die Hard sequel? It's supposed to be some like serious emotional film, and everything they said is not happening.
It did not happen.
It's nothing but stars. I mean, I remember when it cut to that scene.
Yeah.
I was just like,
Peter Falk?
I was literally like, Susan Sarandon and Columbo?
So
immediately
the room lights up with applause, but Bonnie cannot believe that Oakley sold out. She comments on, you changed the original ending. He's like, well, yeah, it was a fucking disaster. You don't remember we premiered it and nobody liked it. We reshot it and now everyone likes it. And Savella is now questioning, who Bonnie is, and Larry Levy is like, oh, Bonnie, like, you've crossed the line this time. Pack your shit. You're fired. And Bonnie is like, you can't do this. And he's like, no, I told you, you're fired. She says, fuck you, walks out. Bonnie walks across the lot, breaking a heel, and she enters the office, begs to speak to somebody through Celia, and that's when we reveal that Griffin has now taken Levinson's job. He is the studio head.
He is the full-blown head of the studio.
So Griffin realizes that Levy fired her. He states that he can't see her now, and he will get back to her, so he leaves the office. Of course, he's bombarded by Bonnie, and he's like, oh, don't worry about it. You'll land on your feet. Bonnie begs him, chases after him, and Griffin's like, I gotta get home. I told my wife I'd be home early. So as he's driving home, he gets a call from Levy, and Levy is like, hey, man, the screening went well, but hey, I've got a writer here. I think you need to hear his pitch. And that's when we hear the voice of the postcard guy come on the phone.
Yeah.
And he states that, hey, you remember me? He's like, I was in the postcard business. And he's like, yeah, I remember you. He's like, what's going on? He's like, well, I got a script for you. And he pitches the entire plot of The Player.
Well, kind of, yeah.
Basically,
I mean, he pitches exactly what happened to our main character.
Yes,
for sure.
So that he murders a screenwriter, he gets away with it, lives happily ever after, and that's when he pulls into his new house. We see that he's married June now, who I think is pregnant.
You think?
June's pregnant.
What? Maybe she just likes to play dodgeball, but the ball's got to be warm first, so she's using
June's
her body.
June's pregnant now.
She's very clearly pregnant.
She comes out of the house, and Griffin ends his call. He's like, what do you call this? And he's like, oh, I call it The Player. Hangs up with him, and he's like, oh, The Player. I like that.
Well, there was one important element I want to bring up about that conversation.
Yeah.
Is when he says, like, it has a happy ending.
Happy ending.
And he says, can you guarantee that's the ending?
Yes.
And he says, if you buy the pitch, yes.
Yes.
Which is a clear...
I'm not going to blackmail
He's not going to blackmail him as long as they do business with him.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention that because I really like that exchange.
Yeah. So he says, I like that title. June comes out and goes, what took you so long? And Griffin goes, traffic was a bitch. The end. That is The Player from 1992.
I don't hate this movie.
Yeah.
But I hate this. No, I'm just kidding. But I just felt like all of the intrigue and excitement that we got from the postcards was kind of wasted.
I mean, I'm not going to say you're wrong because you're not. What I like about the ending is that it's fucking bold.
Oh, it's very bold.
Yeah.
I mean, not as bold as another movie I love about show business.
Yes, that's fair too.
Oof.
So would you like to know some notes about the movie and some fun facts?
Pass.
Too bad. What do you think the budget was?
The 5 range.
$8 million.
Oh, okay.
It opens April 12th, 1992 and makes $302,000 at the box office opening weekend. Box office total, it takes in $21 million.
So it was a pretty good hit for a movie that size.
Yeah.
Not a bad hit, or at least close to a hit.
Writer Michael Tolkien got the idea for his novel driving down Sunset Boulevard, and he thought up a serial killer in L.A. who targeted unproduced screenwriters, coming up with the first sentence just as Griffin suspected there was a meeting in Levinson's office without him.
Oh, wow. Okay.
On his drive, Tolkien originally had no intention to allow the adapting of the book to screen, as he wrote it to basically distance himself from his work in Hollywood. That was when he wrote the novel.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they quickly found out that studio executives also doubted the appeal of a narrative about Hollywood, so he thought the movie was never going to get made. Some years pass, and Kerry Brokaw, the CEO of Avenue Pictures, rejects the script twice in 1989 and 1990. However, in 91, after witnessing Altman's work on the British film Vincent and Theo, Brokaw approached Altman, who eagerly embraced the project.
Wow. I think it's hilarious that he was like, I'm going to write a novel. Fuck Hollywood.
Yeah.
And Hollywood's like, we might make that.
So Altman also successfully persuaded a plethora of A-list actors to make cameo appearances in the film. Based on his esteemed reputation in the industry, these stars agreed to participate without reviewing the script and contributed their union-scale salaries for one day of filming to the motion picture and television country house and hospital or retirement community for the industry professionals.
Wow. Well, that's nice of them for once.
The handwriting on the ominous death threat letters and postcards received by Griffin Mills belongs to none other than director Robert Altman, who took great pleasure in writing those notes.
I believe it.
The writer pitching The Graduate Part 2 to Griffin is a cameo by Buck Henry, who co-wrote the screenplay for The Graduate.
I mean, I love little gags like that.
Yeah. The roughly 8-minute opening uncut tracking shot was planned with models before production began. It was noted that Altman would light a joint and spend hours playing with Tonka trucks to arrange the shot so no time was wasted once they were in the space. The area of the studio lot was a Hollywood General, former site of Francis Ford Coppola's Zoetrope Studios.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And was recently condemned due to earthquakes. New roofs, landscape, and a repaving of the lot was done to bring the image up, but also allowing dolly moves to be smooth. The scene was rehearsed with cast and crew the day before shooting. It was 16 takes that were shot, 5 prints were made, and 3 were perfect.
Oh, wow.
In the 8-minute long tracking shot that opens the film, Fred Ward character appears twice, each time talking about the importance of tracking shots and how he hates how they aren't used in movies like they used to be.
Yeah, I thought that was fun, but I also kind of found it a little cringe.
Yeah. Moments of impact with characters within the opening shot served as signals for the crew to dress the next section of the set quickly so the tracking shot would remain uninterrupted. A Chapman crane was brought in and fitted with a seat to operate as the dolly.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely on a crane.
Yeah.
It's very clear that camera's way up and then down low.
The film has more Oscar-winning actors and actresses in the cast than any other movie in history. There are 12, including Cher, James Coburn, Louise Fletcher, Whoopi Goldberg, Joel Grey, Angelica Houston, Jack Lemmon, Marlee Matlin, Tim Robbins, Julia Roberts, Susan Sarandon, and Rod Steiger. 13 when you count Oscar-winning producer and director Sidney Pollack, who also makes a cameo appearance. Also includes Karen Black, Dean Stockwell, Michael Tolkien, Gary Busey, Peter Falk, Terry Garr, Jeff Goldblum, Elliot Gould, Sally Kirkland, Buck Henry, Sally Kellerman, Burt Reynolds, Nick Nolte, Richard E. Grant, and Lily Tomlin.
Boy, howdy, I'm dizzy already.
Julia Roberts, among others, did her cameo for nothing.
Well, that's not true.
I know it's not, but that's what the trivia said.
I know. They're not allowed to work for nothing because of the union, but they did it for the lowest amount of pay.
The famous instance of that is that Bruce Willis is not credited in 4 Rooms because SAG threatened to sue him because he did it as a favor for Tarantino.
I mean, but I'm just saying, like, yeah, I mean, I don't know how the legality of that or whatever would work, but SAG, you're not allowed to work for free for your friends. But them taking a minimum payday is still pretty nice, especially when they can usually command like $1 million.
It is estimated if all celebrities who did cameos were to charge their normal asking prices for the budget of the film, it would have been in the excess of $100 million on the salaries alone.
Could be. I mean, a lot of the celebrities didn't even speak.
No.
And they probably worked a half a day.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it would. I think really it'd be more like $20 million.
It could be.
That's just my butt math, though.
Tim Robbins as Griffin drives a Range Rover in the film due to the actor being too big to fit into a Mercedes for camera shots from the front of the car.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
Chevy Chase was interested in starring in the film, but Warner Brothers passed on him. Later, Chase would go on to say he was worried about the sexuality of the character damaging his career as a comedian and was happy he did not end up taking it.
We're all happy too.
The banquet scene at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art was catered by a real catering company, despite the fact that many of them were SAG members. No banquet staff who worked at the event were told that they would be filmed until they arrived for the work at night at the museum. The scene was filmed a year before SAG assumed jurisdiction of extra work on West Coast, and the banquet waiters who appear in the scene were not paid for the extra work, not even non-SAG wages. The only compensation they received was the regular compensation for real-life catering company for their hours worked during the fake banquet.
Damn, that's kind of harsh.
Yeah. Every time Griffin enters a bar, a restaurant, or a party, he orders or is served a different brand of bottled water. Robbins at some points even begins to make up names for the waters that don't exist. Altman originally approached Tim Robbins to be a part of the film Shortcuts. Altman invited Robbins out to his Malibu home, and he had seen Tim do work with an actors group called the Actors Gang. He offered him Shortcuts. They smoked a joint to celebrate, but funding unfortunately fell short for Shortcuts, and Robbins got a call from his agent sometime later stating he can either be in The Player, which wasn't guaranteed much money, or he could be in this other project that was guaranteed $1 million. Robin originally agreed to do the $1 million project, woke up the next morning calling his agent, stating that he did not want to do the project and he wanted to work with Altman. Shortcuts was then made due to Altman's success on The Player.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty cool.
The famous banquet and party scenes in the film had no scripted dialogue for the actors. Altman allowed for much improv on set and would discuss beforehand with certain actors on how they'd like to run the scene so Altman could figure out the shots. While this makes the film very active in scenes, Altman would go on to later say that it also led to the biggest shooting time constraint in the movie, as he wanted to feature as many big names as he could. Altman was also very pleased that none of the cameo actors never asked for a screenplay or a script and would simply agree after Altman told them the synopsis of the film.
I mean, well, that helps when you're Robert Altman.
Yeah. In the scene where Tim Robbins stops to say hello to Burt Reynolds in the restaurant, Reynolds improvised the scene, not knowing anything about Griffin, but manages to know he's an asshole.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
In the funeral scene, a man named Phil is giving an angry eulogy about how Hollywood led to the death of Cahane. If you listen closely during the ending of the film, when Griffin is speaking to the postcard writer about his movie pitch, you can recognize the actor who played Phil, Brian Brophy's voice. Robert Altman confirms in the Criterion Collection commentary that Phil is indeed the one responsible for blackmailing and threatening Griffin.
And that's why I get annoyed.
I get that.
So it's not even actually, you're not actually even told who the card writer is. It's just kind of a Easter egg.
Yeah.
But the card writer was such a major point of the film. And granted, the card writer leads to the death by mistaken identity and stuff like that. So I get that. But I just thought there would be something better. I was hoping the card writer would be his girlfriend he dumped.
Yeah.
That's who I kind of hoped would be the card writer, but that's just me.
Griffin, while talking in June at one point, names elements for a successful film as being suspense, laughter, violence, hope, heart, nudity, sex, and happy endings, mainly happy endings, all of which Altman was happy to report made it into The Player, even if they were in different bases.
Well, fair enough.
All pitches made in the opening of the film to Griffin were not scripted and were done by writers on the fly as an exercise to get projects out of their heads that they knew were not marketable.
Oh, okay.
Tim Robbins claims the final ending scene of the blackmailer pitching Griffin the story of the film came from him himself, and Altman gleefully told Robbins, "I am never giving you credit for that."
That sounds like Altman.
During the museum benefit sequence, Altman did not call action or cut the entire time, keeping Robbins in a constant state of pressure to stay in character even when the camera wasn't on him. Robbins recalls his main focus was the lovely lady at his side.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay.
Scenes in June's apartment with Griffin behind plastic as she takes pictures came from Altman's love of diffusion with cinematography and also seeing a camera covered with plastic protection sheeting one day on set. Robbins recalls Altman walking with him on set, stopping to admire the camera in plastic, stating, "I want to shoot through that."
That's so weird. I actually thought my glasses were dirty during that opening shot because he had diffusion over that big dolly shot. No, I mean right at the beginning.
Oh, at the beginning, yeah.
No, I actually thought my glasses were dirty because it was diffused.
Whoopi Goldberg personally called Altman, stating that she wanted to be in the movie, and Altman said he would love to have her, but he didn't have a part for her. Whoopi was quick to tell him that she would play the policeman in the film, which Altman agreed to. It was noted later that Whoopi's involvement in the film led to the film getting more money behind it to be completed.
I believe that she was becoming a huge name at that point.
And finally, after the movie received multiple award nominations, Robert Altman remarked to Tim Robbins, "I think we were too nice to Hollywood in the film. It shouldn't be this successful."
I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, they didn't pick them as horribly as they could have.
They could have, yes. So what are your final thoughts on The Player?
I mean, I think it's an interesting film. I think the story is interesting. And I like it. But I think that it doesn't have the amount of payoff I would like.
Yeah.
But its time capsule of the 90s really is a great treat.
Absolutely.
All the cameos are a great treat. The performances are really good. So, I mean, for me, it's a stream it. Okay. It's not I don't think you desperately need to see it, but I think that it would not be a bad idea. And if you love movies, it's definitely one you'd want to watch.
Yeah, I am also in the same with this. I'm a stream it with a caveat to rent it. This is one of those movies that if you're a movie fan, a Hollywood fan of, like I said, old time at the beginning of the show, but if you're a 90s fan of Hollywood, this is one you definitely need to see from the cameos alone. I think the story, even though the pacing is a little slow at times, I think the story unfolds in a pretty fun way.
Yeah.
And genuinely, I really just am rocked by Tim Robbins' performance in this because you really don't know if he's just going to snap at some point.
Yeah, he played it very well,
yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
So yeah, it is a stream it with a buy it caveat or a rent it caveat for me, and that is it. As we always like to wrap up the show with a couple recommendations. I have two this week. The first one being Adaptation from 2002. A lovelorn screenwriter becomes desperate as he tries and fails to adapt The Orchid Thief by Susan Orlean for the screen. Second one I'm going to go with is Bowfinger from 1999. When a desperate movie producer fails to get a major star for his bargain basement film, he decides to shoot the film secretly around him.
Those are both really good films, but the best one. Did I introduce you to this film?
Yeah,
I think I did.
I think you did.
Yeah. Which maybe is why you respectfully didn't choose it as your suggestion.
Could be.
But for all of the good of The Player, in just a few years later, Swimming with Sharks did it all better.
Oh, that wasn't the one I was thinking of.
Oh, what were you thinking of?
Living in Oblivion.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, it's not a showbiz movie.
No, Swimming with Sharks I saw before you.
Oh, I don't know if that's true.
It's true. I saw it on WGN, actually.
Then how did you not choose Swimming with Sharks?
I didn't even think about it, honestly, to be honest, because like adaptation I just rewatched recently, and it really stuck with me. And Bowfinger, I got to show you. That's been always one of my favorite movies for a good while.
So 2 years later, in 1994, Swimming with Sharks would happen.
Yeah.
And it's a satire film about Hollywood, starring Kevin Spacey, Frank Whaley, and it did everything that they were doing with The Player and way more.
Serious.
It's serious. It's heartbreaking. It's dark. It's poignant.
Has one of the bleakest yet perfect endings of all time.
Yeah, I mean, according to this, it only had a $700,000 budget. It was completely indie.
Wow.
And it does more with that $700,000 than The Player did with all of its budget.
I'll give you that.
And this will be on the show inevitably. We're going to do Swimming with Sharks because it's one of the best films I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
But the reason I feel like it's the perfect combo is because it is almost the same movie.
Essentially,
it's a movie about climbing the studio ladder, not being a creative, but being the studio people, the executives, and what it takes, and how the assistants are abused and stuff like that. Swimming with Sharks would be a perfect double feature with this movie, especially watch Swimming with Sharks second, because it'll wake you back up.
Yes, you're not wrong. I love The Player, but it is a bit slow.
It's a little slow.
Yeah. But that is it for The Player. You want to know what we're talking about next week?
Of course not.
Well, too bad, because Mulgist continues as we are going to go with a personal favorite of both you and I as we dive into 1985's Clue next week.
Man, 85 is when that came out. Yeah, Clue's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. A lot of plot.
Hey, and Martin Mull actually speaks in it.
It's featured on camera for more than 30 seconds in it.
It's true. So speaking of all that, we have an email.
Ooh.
I want to remind you all, you can email us at doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com or go to doyouevenmovie.com and send us a message through there. This is from our good buddy Patrick.
Okay.
Patrick said, commenting on the movie month title, what about mulling around? I don't think it's worse than your current title. Thanks. And then Patrick asks, would you guys ever do Deadpool?
I don't think you would.
I do not like Deadpool.
Yeah, you're not a fan. I like Deadpool and Deadpool 2, but I'm not the biggest fan of either of those movies. They're fun. I've seen them both a couple times. I do enjoy them, but I don't know. Like those movies, while they do present a lot to talk about, I feel like also they don't.
I did not find Deadpool very funny, which is weird because at the time I was in love with Marvel and I've always loved Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
I just don't find Deadpool to be a very compelling character.
You know what I would like to do on the show, except I think we would have to cut it before the final end? The voices.
Oh, God.
That movie's
ending.
Perfect until
it's a genius film.
Yeah.
And then that ending is total crap.
So to answer Patrick, I don't think Deadpool will come to the show, unfortunately, but
maybe I'll suck it up and go see Deadpool and Wolverine and then I doubt it.
I didn't think you were going to be one over.
I'm just not a big fan of I'm literally not a fan of the movie, the first Deadpool movie.
Yeah.
I never saw the second one.
Oh.
Because I could not stand the first one.
I remember
it could not stand strong. I didn't find it funny. And the weird thing is I saw it in a packed theater on opening night.
Yeah.
And I wasn't the only one not laughing. I thought it was really weird. I felt like the audience wasn't into it either.
Would you entertain the idea of a double feature possibly to prepare us for Deadpool versus Wolverine? I know. But I'm just throwing that out there.
Life is short.
You can
quote the film.
You can take drugs or whatever you need to.
I'll take my antihistamine.
There we go. That's a party.
I'll take a bunch of Benadryl and invite the Hat Man along for the ride.
And the Hat Man's like, I don't even like Deadpool.
Yeah, the Hat Man's like, he's just kind of annoying.
But no, I do want to go see the third one, but I'm not rushing out.
Well, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. Yeah. But no, I mean, I do enjoy the films, Patrick. But yeah, I don't think they would be ones to come to the show just because somebody doesn't like them.
And it's rare that I don't like a movie.
Except the one that you won't fucking tell me is my favorite.
Right.
It can't be Slaughter High.
Right.
You wouldn't even tell me if I got it right at this point, probably.
I would tell you.
You would?
Yeah, but telling you does not mean giving you hints.
Okay.
Or suggesting anything.
But I could throw out titles and you would get and I could guess.
Sure.
I'm gonna need time to prepare then.
Oh okay. I the best part, guys, because a lot of people have been writing and how amused they are, was after we recorded that night, we were sitting down getting ready to start watching another movie.
Night Shift.
And I just turned to Dave and I'm like, you'd really like a hint, wouldn't you? And you were like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, I figured you would. And I just watched the movie.
Enrique's a dick, guys.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So
Enrique is right.
Oh, God.
And also handsome.
We'll see about that.
But before we get out of here, is there anything else you want to get across, Davey?
I think that is it. I do want to add that I am really loving the interaction we are getting both on Facebook and Instagram with some of our clips that we've been putting up. Unfortunately, like I've said on the podcast and previous, we've been banned from TikTok, so that's where the clips are going to be from now on.
Yep. And I do want to mention, I'll go ahead and tease this now.
Ooh.
The month of October.
Yes.
Obviously, we're going to do something related to Halloween.
Obviously.
But I decided to take it one step further because some people, sometimes if there's space on the feed, I'll release us reviewing horror films on Weekly Spooky.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those listeners, that's how they want to hear about horror movies.
Yeah.
So this October, we are going to do a combination Weekly Spooky Do You Even movie combo every week, and we're going to talk about only the finest, most quintessential, fun, and accessible Halloween films.
Hell yeah, we are.
So they will, every single one of them, I'm making this criteria up right now.
That's fine.
Every single one of them will have to be readily available, relatively easy to access, ideally Tubi, Pluto, stuff like that.
It's easy enough.
On Halloween, which we have a great list that you've already compiled of that. And we're just going to have a blast with it.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So, and we're going to, of course, mention them ahead of time so you have homework for next week.
You do.
So they will be publishing on the regular Tuesday here at Do You Even Movie, whether you're watching it on YouTube or listening on your podcast app. They'll be publishing on Tuesday at Weekly Spooky as well. So I'm very excited. I think that's going to be a really cool thing because last year, Do You Even Movie didn't exist in October
It did not.
yet. So you did a special where you gave your quintessential horror movie list, which people still are praising.
I appreciate that.
But this time around, I think we're going to hit it hard.
I love that idea.
So that's something to look forward to. And of course, like we said, next week is Clue. So remember to leave us a comment if you're watching us on YouTube. Leave us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcasting app. We really appreciate it. When you comment, please comment over at YouTube because it drives more audience. I know some people are commenting on Patreon, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
But if you comment on YouTube, it'll drive the algorithm up.
Yeah.
So, but we will be back here next Tuesday with even more Do You Even Movie. So until next time, traffic was a bitch.
Traffic was a bitch.
Bye, guys.
Later, y'all.